Well, here we go. Trump is in the news again regarding Panama, and this time it's not about money laundering with one of his properties here. It's not about his plan to ship migrants to Panama. It is now about possibly taking back control of the Panama Canal. But before we really dive into what this means, the potential logistics, and the legality of it, I think you need to understand the history between the USA and Panama that dates back to Panama's independence from Colombia. In this video, we will cover treaties, Panama's independence from Colombia, a U.S. invasion in Panama, riots, colonialism, the Panama Canal, its segregation and how it affected my great-grandfather, the Panama Canal expansion project that was not built by the USA, how the government of Panama and other countries responded to Trump's post, how one of his family members taunted Panama, and lastly, Trump's response back to Panama's president. Whew, that was a mouthful. Let's get started. When Panama gained its independence from Spain in 1821, it simultaneously joined the Confederation of Gran Colombia through the Independence Act of Panama. Gran Colombia was a union of several former Spanish colonial territories. Panama was quite far from the government in Bogota, Colombia, that was making decisions without their consent, and the War of 1,000 Days that weakened Colombia's authority in Panama led to some of the reasons why Panama wanted to separate from Gran Colombia. After a failed attempt at building the Panama Canal by the French, and the refusal by Colombia to allow the U.S. to continue building the canal, the USA saw a prime opportunity to step in and acquire land in Panama to build the canal by offering to help Panama gain their independence. But this came at a cost. The U.S. intervened in a revolt using the addition of the Monroe Doctrine, which stated that the U.S. had the right to intervene in Latin American domestic affairs, in essence giving them policing power. In turn, they used that to secure land in Panama for the canal that they wanted to build. During a conflict, the United States dispatched warships to the coast of Colombia that prevented Colombian troops from entering Panama in the province of Colón and intervening in the conflict that was taking place. It was this quote-unquote assistance that expedited the formation of the Republic of Panama as Colombia agreed to negotiate its independence. But let's see what that actually cost Panama. In under 2 weeks of gaining independence, in exchange for the role that the United States played in defending the Republic, the United States and Panama signed a treaty which granted the U.S. a strip of land for them to build a canal. The U.S. paid a one-time $10 million payment to Panama and an annual annuity of $250,000. This gave the U.S. a perpetual lease on the land around the canal known as the Panama Canal Zone, which was a 10-mile strip of territory spanning 5 miles on each side of the canal, cutting through the country. The Panama Canal is one of the 7 wonders of the modern world and was a major engineering feat for the United States of America. The Panama Canal is a 51-mile waterway that runs through the entire span of Panama's isthmus, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. This connection reduces the time and associated costs for ships that would have to travel around all of South America. Costs that include fuel, manpower, food, time, etc. In summary, the canal shortens shipping routes and costs and provides military routes for various countries. The Panama Canal is truly a sight to behold that attracts thousands of tourists each year just to see the ships pass through its locks, watching vessels rise or get lowered just by using water to move ships from one elevation to another as they traverse through Panama, entering one ocean and leaving in another. With a revenue of approximately $5 billion from 2023 to 2024, the top canal users were the United States, China, Chile, Japan, Colombia, and South Korea. Here are some examples to show you how the top users change from year to year, but the United States remains as the top user. The Panama Canal accounts for around 7.7% of the total annual GDP of Panama. Operating the canal isn't just about transporting ships. There's a delicate balancing act that takes place between the canal operations and the drinking water demands in parts of Panama, since they both rely on rainwater, which has been a major concern over the years. Normally, Panama would see a dry year with little rainfall approximately every 15 to 20 years, but it has experienced a dry year in 2016, 2019, and another one in 2023. And due to this latest dry season, the Panama Canal had been in the news for issues with water levels, where it had to restrict the number of ships that could pass through it daily. This increased the wait times to enter the canal, increased fees for those who wanted to skip the line, and created a backlog of shipping delays. During this time, those living in Panama were asked to conserve their water usage to help with the shortage. The reduction in rainfall during the dry season is a major problem for the canal since each ship uses around 51 million gallons of water from Gatun Lake. This is the very lake that also provides drinking water to about half of Panama's 4.5 million people. The Canal Authority has to ensure that there's enough water to meet the demands of around 2.5 million people in Panama City, as well as the city of Colón, who rely on the water from Gatun Lake. The priority is to ensure drinking water for the people in these two cities, but the canal is very important for Panama's economy, so it's a delicate balancing act that requires extreme care for competing water usage demands that you don't want in the hands of just anybody. As mentioned before, building the canal was a grand engineering feat. Construction of the first portion of the Panama Canal began in 1903 and was completed in 1914. The canal was a major foreign policy achievement for the United States that flexed its economic power and technological engineering prowess. But this came at a cost to Panama and many of the workers for the canal. That said, let's take a look at the years of its construction and what was taking place in the United States during that time, and how they brought that mentality into Panama. The United States granted the canal zone sovereign-like rights, which meant that it operated as an unofficial colony of the United States, and in turn, its racist policies of that time. Segregation was institutionalized throughout the 10-mile-wide area of the canal zone. This segregation created an apartheid atmosphere that sparked deep unrest. Examples of this systematic oppression were felt in all aspects of daily life in the canal zone. For example, if we look at my great-grandfather's work record for the Panama Canal Railroad, we see he was paid what was called the silver roll. They paid mainly white workers the gold roll, and all others, mostly workers from the Caribbean, the silver roll. The gold and silver roll wages were even dispersed from separate payroll windows. That's correct. The same exact work, but for different pay based on your race and from different windows. They also divided up the town where only people who were gold roll could frequent, while the silver roll were banned. Does this ring a bell? For whites only and for colored only. This segregation impacted the quality of housing, schools, and entertainment venues, just to name a few. It also affected the death rate of the workers. For example, Wikipedia states the following regarding a sanitation program that was implemented in the canal zone to combat tropical diseases that were being created by some of the conditions the workers had encountered. An example of this included pools of standing water where mosquitoes could breed and spread diseases like yellow fever and malaria. While this disease reduction dramatically improved the health of white workers, black workers, the majority of the canal workforce, continued to die in large numbers at 10 times the rate of white workers in 1906. While medical care was provided to all, housing was not provided to black workers, many of whom had to live in tents or tenements outside of the mosquito-controlled zone. In the end, 350 white workers had died compared to 4,500 black workers. This begs to question how this legacy of segregation that the United States brought here impacts the descendants who live in Panama to this very day. While the USA says we built the canal, it's ignoring the efforts of workers from other nations. Annually, there's a homage in Panama for the Caribbean workers who made contributions to the canal and railroad, honoring those who lost their lives while working under these segregated and harsh conditions. Remember, the canal zone was a form of U.S. occupation where certain people were allowed to enter and where certain people were given certain rights. Many of the Zonians had been there for 2 and 3 generations, and it has been said that some of them had become very inward-looking and did not have a favorable opinion of Panamanians or of Panama. They were considered to be American colonials that were very well paid, lived extremely well, and had their own schools, stores, entertainment, and so on. As expected, this created an apartheid-like structure in Panama which led to resentment and tensions. For example, in 1963, then U.S. President John F. Kennedy agreed to fly Panama's flag along the U.S. flag at all non-military sites in the Canal Zone, where the U.S. flag had been flown. But Kennedy was assassinated before his orders were implemented, and after his death, the governor of the Canal Zone issued a decree limiting the order. He stated that no flag, the Panamanian nor the U.S. flag, would be flown outside of military institutions. As a response, Zonians began flying the U.S. flag anywhere they could. For example, after a flag was taken down at the Balboa High School in the Canal Zone, some students walked out of class, raised another flag, and posted guards to ensure that it wasn't removed. The news of the flag raising made it to Panama's top public high school, and around 200 students from that school marched in the Canal Zone to Balboa High School, carrying their school's Panamanian flag, proclaiming their country's sovereignty over the U.S. Canal Zone. It has been stated that they informed their school's principal and the Canal Zone authorities of their intentions to raise the Panamanian flag next to the U.S. flag before they marched. A half-dozen Panamanian students carrying their flag approached the flagpole, and in response, some Zonians surrounded the flagpole and started singing the Star-Spangled Banner. A scuffle occurred, resulting in the Panamanian flag being torn, as the Panamanian students were pushed back by the Zonians and police. As news of a torn flag spread, angry Panamanian crowds formed across the border between Panama City and the Canal Zone. On numerous occasions, Panamanians stormed into the zone, planting Panamanian flags. The Canal Zone police used tear gas on the Panamanians, rocks were thrown at the cops, and then the police opened fire. The final death toll was 28 people, which included minors. The list of Panama's martyrs can be found today at the Martyrs Memorial in the former Balboa High School in Panama City. Declassified documents state that the U.S. Army fired 450 rifle rounds, 5 pistol bullets, 953 shells of birdshot, and 7,193 grenades or projectiles containing tear gas. Driving around Panama, you will see monuments, statues, and wall paintings depicting Panamanians raising their flag on that flagpole. This image of Panamanians raising their flag even made it onto the cover of Life magazine. Depending on who you're speaking with, what took place on this day was either an invasion, a form of liberation, or an operation. On December 20th, 1989, the United States invaded Panama on a mission named Operation Just Cause. The U.S. said that the operation was necessary to safeguard the lives of U.S. citizens in Panama, defend democracy, protect human rights, combat the drug trade, capture Noriega, and to ensure the neutrality of the Panama Canal. The number of Panamanians killed during the Just Cause operation is estimated to range from a few hundred to many thousands, depending on the source. Either way, many Panamanians disappeared. Several were buried in mass graves. Numerous civilians were wounded, and thousands of Panamanians were left homeless due to the destruction of their homes and extensive fires that resulted from this attack. In one neighborhood, El Chorrillo, it is reported that approximately 2,700 families were displaced by these fires, and that these residents were each given $6,500 by the U.S. to build a new house or apartment in selected areas or those close to the city. To this very day, many Panamanians don't know what happened to some of their family members or friends during this invasion. They were just gone. At this time, Noriega was one of the CIA's most valued intelligence sources that ended up amassing a personal fortune through drug trafficking operations. In the end, Noriega was captured and flown to Miami to be tried. I have linked the documentary, The Panamanian Deception, which details the just cause operation. I suggest you watch it to truly get a better understanding of this event from a different perspective. As a result of the invasion, a national public holiday in Panama that commemorates the Panamanians who died during this invasion was created and called the National Mourning Day, which is held each year on December 20th. By enacting this law, we settle a debt with the nation, with those who died in this tragic event, who we remember with respect, said then-President Riots in 2022 when he signed it into law. This brings us to present-day events in the canal. After an extremely in-depth negotiating process, on September 7, 1977, the Torrijos-Carter treaties were signed, which established the rules for the joint operation of the Panama Canal until 1999. This treaty guaranteed the permanent neutrality of the Panama Canal. The Canal Zone and its associated government ceased to exist when the treaties entered into force, and Panama assumed full jurisdiction over the territories and functions of the former Canal Zone and the canal at noon on December 31, 1999. At the time of this recording, Panama has been operating the canal for 25 years with neutrality, and in 2016, they expanded the canal under a new project. The Panama Canal Expansion Project, also known as the Third Set of Locks Project, was a $5.2 billion project that doubled the capacity of the Panama Canal. This project, allowing larger ships to pass through, have locks that are 70 feet wider and 18 feet deeper than the original locks constructed by the United States. The expansion project consisted of the following: building new sets of locks, one on each side of the Atlantic and Pacific sides. It widened and deepened existing channels, and it raised the maximum operating water level of Gatun Lake. The $2.3 billion financing package for this canal expansion included loans from the following government-owned institutions. The labor required to build the new locks were largely done by Panamanians and a diverse team of global engineers who designed the new lock system. On December 21, 2024, one day after Panama's National Mourning Day, the one I discussed earlier regarding honoring those who died from the USA Just Cause invasion, President-elect Trump said the following: "The fees being charged by Panama are ridiculous, especially knowing the extraordinary generosity that has been bestowed to Panama by the U.S. This complete ripoff of our country will immediately stop. The United States has a vested interest in the secure, efficient, and reliable operation of the Panama Canal, and that was always understood. We would never and will never let it fall into the wrong hands. It was not given for the benefit of others, but merely as a token of cooperation with us and Panama. If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to us in full and without question. The officials of Panama, please be guided accordingly." Well, that didn't go over well with Panamanians or other countries for that matter. The Panamanian president, Jose Raul Molino, said the following: "As president, I want to express precisely that every square meter of the Panama Canal and its adjacent area belong to Panama and will continue to be. The sovereignty and independence of our country are not negotiable. Every Panamanian, here or anywhere in the world, carries in it their heart, and it's a part of our history of struggle and an irreversible conquest. These treaties also establish the permanent neutrality of the canal, guaranteeing its open and safe operation for all nations. Our canal has the mission of serving humanity and its commerce. That is one of the great values that Panamanians offer to the world, giving a guarantee to the international community not to take part nor to be an active party in any conflict. Rates are not a whim. They are and will be established publicly and in an open audience, considering the market conditions, international competition, operating costs, and the maintenance and modernization needs of the interoceanic waterway. The canal has no control, direct or indirect, neither from China, nor from the European community, nor from the United States or any other power. As a Panamanian, I strongly reject any manifestation that distorts this reality, and it will continue to be in Panamanian hands as the inalienable heritage of our nation and guaranteeing its use for the peaceful and uninterrupted transit of ships of all nations, as established by our Constitution and the Neutrality Treaty. We Panamanians may think differently in many aspects, but when it comes to our canal and our sovereignty, we all unite under a single flag, that of Panama. We are a country open to dialogue today and always, to investments and good relations, but with the clear slogan that the country comes first. That, for this Panamanian president, is not negotiable. At the time of this recording, the following countries have responded in solidarity with Panama: the President of Colombia, Mexico, and China. Trump responded with the following social media post. And one of his sons posted the following in one of his Instagram stories. As to be expected, this spread like wildfire. Panamanians took to the streets, with some showing their pride in the country, the canal, and others show their disdain towards Trump, and burned photos of him and the U.S. flag.
In Panama, demonstrators outside the U.S. Embassy on Christmas Eve lit fire to a poster showing Trump.
Un canal es panameño.
This man said, "The canal here is Panamanian. Donald Trump, with his imperial delusions, cannot claim a single inch of land in Panama."
Some Panamanians even questioned where all of the wealth from the canal was going when there are so many inequities in Panama. Trump's remarks are viewed as insulting, ignorant to the history between the two countries, and a slap in the face to an ally. All of this begs to question, can the USA really take back the Panama Canal? Let's talk about some of the logistics of this threat. It might require military action to achieve this, and while Panama does not have a quote-unquote military, it does have around 20,000 people in the Panamanian public forces. This includes a special forces group that is trained by, you guessed it, the United States. Do you want to take a guess at what type of training took place a few months ago in August of 2024? Exercise Panamax is a multinational military exercise that focuses on the security and stability of the Panama Canal and the Western Hemisphere. The first of these exercises was in 2003, which means the United States has been training Panama for over 20 years on how to secure the canal. How does the USA plan on operating the canal, and which part of the canal does it want to take back? Just the part it helped to build over 100 years ago? You know, the one that isn't sized properly for vessels from today's day and age? What is to come of all the Panamanians who currently work for the Panama Canal? How will other countries respond? How will Panama respond? Is this really worth losing a crucial regional ally who's helping with immigration and regional security, among other things? Would other countries trust any treaties from the USA if this one is broken? Is this just a negotiating threat? And if it is, what makes him think that other countries won't try to do the same with canal rates? Another question is, does Trump still have a bad taste in his mouth from a failed business here in Panama City that was associated with money laundering? For those of you that are familiar with the popular JW Marriott residence and hotel here, it was once called the Trump Ocean Club, his massive luxury hotel and condo building in Panama City. In 2018, investigative reports revealed that the project was linked to suspected money laundering. Trump's name was eventually removed from the property after a nasty legal battle, but the scandal cast a long shadow over his dealings here in Panama. Only time will tell what will come of all of this and what the relationship will be moving forward with these two countries who grew to be allies despite a checkered past. I hope this video shed some light into some of the history between the United States and Panama. If you enjoy this type of content, watch this video up next. Until the next time, the world is yours. You just have to find your place in it.